Assalamu alaikum. I did a video yesterday on using all um, the um, the figures of speech in one particular little paragraph, and the challenge is to actually just change the you just change the noun, and then you can actually create your own little story. Um, you remember there's the incredible story I did in the previous video. Sorry, I didn't expect it to actually run well, but hopefully this will also run well. So if you say like one day a man behaving like a dog, simile, you can write like um, one day a woman behaving like a tiger, simile. Okay, so in that way you can actually redo it and become very good at your language. So um, in the next page, which is 49, I do a translation of it into Afrikaans. And you know, Afrikaans didn't really develop much, so it used a lot of Anglicism, as they call it, Anglicization, as they call it. Okay, they take English words and they make it Afrikaans, such as alliteration becomes alliteratie, assonance become assonancy. It becomes like really um, difficult when it comes to your higher levels of learning. I just switched. I was an Afrikaans student from grade 1 right up to grade 12, as well as my into my third year of becoming a teacher. I changed into English because the book that we did on pedagogic, which is pedagogics, was like, it was 90% Anglicism, English words that were Africanized, or Africanized, got it Africanized because it means something else. Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna do the next one, which is using common words that are used, especially in politics, and in magazines, etc., to impress the reader in terms of what happens in society. But normally one finds when you read the articles, it's all about critique, but there's no solutions. The only solutions often presented is policies. Right, a new policy. I mean, just to indicate the ridiculousness of it. The education department has 7,000 policies in terms of education. You just need one, and that is to do the best for children. That's all. And then work through it. But most of the policies that are written is not in order for the service of people, but to actually manipulate people. I've got a sweater like that I painted. Okay, let's go to the next practice of improving the language. Remember, this book at the bottom is to increase the language register of students. Because if you increase the register of students, they've got a wider range of vocabulary to express themselves, to understand things, to be able to protect themselves, and to be able to make themselves clear. So this is a kind of your language increases it's a better protection for you, because contracts and policies, they play with words, and people get trapped into it, sometimes, and most of the times at their own expense. So what I did is to take the Time magazine, in which a principal writer writes on the politics and the condition of the world, basically, and government, etc. And then I listed all the big words that are being used in the article, and then actually think sort of, what can I do to actually combine all these words in an essay that will guide people at the same time. So obviously I I will use like the guidance of the Creator in the Quran, etc., and the prophets. The Bible is a similar device in terms of it, and also like the Quran. They all basically send the same message about the Creator and the guidance, etc., and how to change yourself and how to become that good person that the Creator wants us to become. That's why the Creator says in the Quran, the people of the book and the Muslims, and they must find the ways in which they agree on and connect against the kafir. The kafir is the one who destroys things, who just wants to hurt and exploit people. So there you can see there's a guidance in that ayah of the Quran. There are similarities that we must look at as Muslims and Christians and Jews. We have to, because those are the main features, and all other religions or that have kind of a connection with the Nabi Ibrahim, which they call Abraham, right, in English, alayhi salam. You need to come together and find the commonalities. And then Allah says in another part of the Quran, and I will tell you on the day of judgment why I have differed you slightly. Okay. So let's do. I did one particular essay. It's in my book on page 132. It's called Politics. Okay. Now this is a fascinating one because I use big words, and I use it, after each other. And the challenge is that you will take a part of that sentence and make your own sentence. Either add a new front or a new back, but use some of these big words. That's the challenge of an holistic methodologist. Is that you capture a lot of vocabulary in one particular sentence, and then you raise your level of your language. We do like a kind of a social experiment. We ask the children to go back to their parents and speak with these big words. You see the reaction of the parents. We don't give homework. Your homework in terms of Ikra HL University is to actually teach what you've been taught. Because the best way to learn is to teach. Okay, yeah, I'm going to read now this politics, okay? I took all these words from, I think his name is Zakaria. And he is like a principal writer of the Time magazine, Newsweek, and things like that. Very highly respected writer. So I took all the words from his article and I restructured the words into a guiding feature of what we should do. Okay, now here it goes. A compendium of cascading crises around the world calls into question the many structures once trusted for growth and stability. The menacing threats left many forlorn, isolated, insecure, vulnerable, unstable, and desperately fragile. Embarrassed politicians frantically hurled accusations at other leaders, but soon found themselves sounding inconsistent with reality. Such attempts further alienated them from their constituencies. People need commitment to real change that will exhibit resilience, anti-fragility, equity, and inclusion, grounded in consistency. They refuse regurgitated movements with cosmetic changes that favor the enfranchised, supremacists, and marginalize the masses, which some leaders are notorious for. This vulnerability of the disenfranchised leads to movements that break boundaries and push change. The inability of many leaders to feel commiseration for the suffering of their people is often unfathomable. It seems that their self-interest mesmerizes them into denial. Speculations and conspiracy theories serve as scapegoats for incompetencies. Growth needs originality, diversity, openness, sustainability, and security. This requires re-engineering of thoughts, methods, and governances that muster a new unified local, national, and international consultation, alliance, allegiance, cooperation, and procedures that ensure advancement for all. Wholehearted receptivity to investigate the modus operandi that stagnates serious positive change within cities, countries, and the world needs to commence. Our interconnectedness allows all the platform for negotiations. Successful negotiations include preparation, discussion, clarification of goals, a win-win outcome, agreement, implementation of a course of action, step-by-step review, and evaluation to ensure that the agreed process is on track. Now, okay, that I took from another particular summary of what is, negotiation. The book that I basically bought and read the whole book and summarized it like this. I can continue the essay that I wrote. The above needs maturity, fearlessness, critical preparedness, creativity, task orientation, acceptance of vulnerability, preparedness for challenges, contingency plans, and the appreciation of others' point of view. These are the steps towards progress and achievements beyond the expectations of leaders and citizens. That's the full, that's page 132, 133, and it deals with using big words, and still, instead of just complaining and having possibilities, are you with me, is to use those particular vocabulary and give it a grounding and give it a pathway and a process by combining basically three articles. One is this article in Newsweek, plus a book on negotiation, and then also the kind of, you get like, there's a TED talk on the power of vulnerability, not to try and be the big guy all the time, you must show some sort of, the fact that you are vulnerable for certain things, it allows people to communicate better with you. Okay, so let's quickly go through it. A compendium of cascading crises around the world calls into question the many structures once trusted for growth and instability. You can simplify the sentence and say, old ideas don't work anymore. Okay. The menacing threats left many forlorn, isolated, insecure, vulnerable, unstable, and desperately fragile. So the threats that exist, make people weak. And those are all the words, the big words that they use in order to talk on another level. Embarrassed politicians frantically hurled accusations at other leaders, but soon found themselves sounding inconsistent with reality. Politicians normally lie. That's the film. They normally tell you something, but they do the other things behind the back. So my father-in-law was a writer, and he said, if you really want to see a group of people that don't know what they're doing, and you can sit in any parliament house, you'll see basically, how people argue over nonsense, In actual fact, some of the arguments that you see in parliament sessions and things like that, it sounds like a grade 9 class, where people are like arguing over, like, are these people like leaders, you ask yourself. So obviously, there is a reason for that kind of thing. I sat next to a guy who did economics with me, and he said he wanted to do economics because he wanted to be in politics. So I said, why? He says, I just want to sit still and do nothing and get paid. Okay, so this is the topic here is actually politics, okay? So then the next point here is such attempts further alienate them from their constituencies. In other words, by talking about something and not delivering, etc., people don't vote for you anymore. They move away from the people, because and then after another, they vote the people out again. You can even speak about democracy, how, there's now these videos out that explains the trick of democracy, okay? They now realize that the vote gets the people in power, and after the people in power, is there more democracy after that they become like an authority. They just do what they like. And they say, okay, but you told us to be there, so, And so people need commitment to real change that will exhibit resilience, anti-fragility, equity, and inclusion grounded in consistency. Basically what I'm saying here, if people are not committed, they're not going to be able to progress, and they will be weak. and they refuse regurgitated movements with cosmetic changes that favor the enfranchised supremacists and marginalize the masses, which some leaders are notorious for. Um, Notorious, the word notorious means to be famous but for the wrong thing, okay? And then regurgitated movements, it's actually saying they have policies and policies and policies, but it doesn't do anything. It just run around in a circle. And people are tired of that kind of thing. Your promises that are made in politics that never come to fruition, etc. The vulnerability of the disenfranchised leads to movements that break boundaries and push change. Those are the protests, etc. People burning things down, throwing stones and all sorts of stuff. Which is another thing that you can say. How creative can somebody be if you don't like something, or somebody is a bad person? How are you going to ask the person to be a good? If you know by track record the person doesn't do good. It's better that you do it yourself. Do some good yourself. Like people would say, be the change that you want to be. Be the change that you want. The vulnerability of the disenfranchised leads to movements that break boundaries and push change. The inability of many leaders to feel commiseration for the suffering of the people is often unfathomable. Basically, that particular sentence is, how can leaders make the people suffer so and not even feel bad about it? Okay, it seems that their self-interest mesmerizes them into denial. People are so impressed about their own self and their own ego that they deny the fact that they do things that wrong other people. Growth needs originality, diversity, openness, sustainability, and security. So there, lots of sentences are putting in one sentence. In other words, if you want growth, you must be original. You must be creative. You can't use the same methodology in order to find a new result. It's stupid. You can't do the same thing over and over, the method of it, but you expect a new result. You've got to be creative. Okay? This requires re-engineering of thoughts, methods, governances, and that muster a new unified local, national, international consultation, alliance, allegiance, cooperation, and procedures that ensure advancement for all. Basically, come together with sincerity, be truthful, and work hard. Same sentence. Okay? Wholehearted receptivity to investigate modus operandi meaning the methods people use, that stagnates serious positive change within cities, countries, and the world needs to commence. You need to wholeheartedly look at systems and see what is the system. You accept the system, but you know it's problematic, but you still accept the system. So people don't realize that education and learning is two different things. Education is a control feature through state, and learning is a natural thing. You do it on a second-by-second basis. And education basically manipulates the market. How many people become managers, how many people become doctors, how many people become accountants, how many people become cleaners, and how many people become producers. That's what examinations do. So but testing is something that you test over and over, and then you test yourself, and then you become a professional. You don't fail in the really learning. You learn all the time. Even you make mistakes, you learn. But you don't fail. But the examination makes you fail. And obviously breaks your whole your self-esteem. Now I brought in the work I did on negotiations. So our interconnectedness allows all the platform for negotiations. Yeah, I'm relating to the fact we have internet and everything, and so we can actually connect with each other, and it allows us to communicate with each other more comfortably. Successful negotiations, now I give you the steps of it. There's a whole book written on it. Preparation, discussion, clarification of your goals. Make sure it's a win-win outcome. It's not about the win-lose outcome. Everybody must benefit. There must be agreement that is a good idea. And then the implementation of the course, of the action that you want to take. And then a step-by-step review. Always check, am I doing the right thing? And then evaluate. Evaluation to ensure that the agreed process is on track. Now, from the history of Islam, if one studies the history of the Muslims, you find that the Khulafa Rashidin, who are actually the followers of Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the companions of Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they learned from Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that you test your niyyah, you test what is your niyyah, and they give you their advice. Say, test your niyyah at the beginning. What was your intention at the beginning? Then in the middle of the program, are you still keeping on your intention? And at the end, you ask yourself, did I achieve my goal, my intention? Now that is a beautiful thing, because if your intention is pure, things just become a reality. If you purify yourself, the time in which your wish becomes true becomes shorter. You know, it's like deja vu. When you wish for something, there's no ulterior motive. You actually arrive at the place and then, oh my goodness, I was here already. But it's not so. Your soul was there and your ruh was there before your body arrived. Your body only arrives later. So if you want to close the time in which your thought becomes reality, you must purify yourself. And that's the beauty of the Quran. Tells you, purify yourself in your thoughts and your action, in your place, etc. And Allah will make your wishes come true immediately. But if you still have a lot of stuff in you, etc., it just delays your wishes, because istighfar, to make dua for forgiveness is extremely important, to cleanse yourself and to get closer to Allah, get closer to the ruh that is inside of us. And give sadaqah, very important, give sadaqah. Whether you do something with somebody, whether you give money, whether you give food, etc., give sadaqah with that intention of Allah Ta'ala, open up my road for me, clean me from my evils, etc. And accept that we are all evil. Some other way. Allah says in the Quran, before Surah, the last ayah of the Surah, number 35. If Allah punishes us for what we do wrong, then not a single living species will exist. Well, what a single living person will be like. Everybody will just die. So that put us back into a kind of a kind of humility to a certain extent. We don't know, but we all start, inshallah. Internet is a beautiful thing. Many people teaching, many people teach. That just shows that humanity has got this natural tendency to share and to make other people do what they do to increase one another's value. Alhamdulillah. That must be the aim of sharing. So in situation, agreement, implementation of the course of action, step-by-step review and evaluation, and to assure that the agreed process is on track. And then for the above to take place, there must be maturity, must be a kind of fearlessness, a prepared. In other words, you must be prepared to be criticized and not criticize yourself. That meaning doing something original, right? Task already stick to your task, do it every time. And accepting vulnerability after the fact you can mistake and you're not perfect. And then the preparedness for challenges. Make sure that you know that you prepare yourself for something that might go wrong, and then you know what to do. Contingency plans. Have another plan in place if that doesn't work. Okay? And the appreciation of others' point of view. In actual fact, to listen to people's advice. Sometimes a person, I'll give you an example. Sometimes a person who is not in that field can see the problem faster in the field of people who are specialists in it, because those people, specialists, they tend to overlook certain simple things. But a person that doesn't know anything about can actually see the flaw. And unless you open yourself up for that kind of, that you are vulnerable, that you are not perfect, and that you can actually take advice from other people. Very interesting thing about the history of Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. You always, the masjid is like a government house in the time of Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Everybody comes there for 5 times a day, having a meeting every five times a day, meeting people, finding out about the problems and creating solutions. And then it's open for anybody to walk in. And there was a time that they were Nabi Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and the Muslims was being threatened. And there's an army coming towards him, and a person from another country or village or whatever. He entered the masjid, but they don't know him. And nobody knows it's a new person. And he listened to the discussion. And then then he suggested the trench to dig a trench around the area so that it can reduce the impact of a big army. And it was taken. Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam accepted the advice. And there again you see Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's humility and really example of a human being and taking advice from good advice and know exactly what is good advice and applying. And Allah Ta'ala has guided him every way. So, prepares for challenges, contingency plans, and the precious Allah's point of view. These are steps towards progress and achievements, beyond the expectations of leaders and citizens. When you apply those particular principles that is in this particular essay, you achieve certain things which is beyond your expectations, which again proves to you that Allah is in charge of goodness, because He gives you the ideas, He gives you the opportunities. You must use it in the best possible manner. And one of our problems, one of the things that people don't realize is they always want, I need money for this, I need money for that. I teach my students, I do it myself. If you can do well with the little you have, that is creativity. And you make sure that